Melina, and I am Canvas and Conversation, and I am glad that you're joining me today because we couldn't be in person, so we're going to record this fun, easy painting for you guys to do. We can think of warmer weather because it's kind of chilly here in Indiana still. So we're going to get started. For those of you who haven't painted with me before, just keep in mind that it's acrylic paint. It's going to come off your hands, out of your hair, but if you get it on your clothes, you might be living with it, so keep that in mind. You should have 3 brushes, a big one, a small one, and a little one in your kit. If you're just following along and painting, use whichever brush you feel best to use. You should have a cup of water next to you and some paper towels to dry your brushes up on. I have already put my paint on a palette, and you can work out the little cups if you have the kit, or you can go ahead and use the plate and put your paint on it. We're going to use this for mixing, and it's just a few colors. It's just red and white, black, a little bit of blue, and a little bit of yellow. And we're going to do this kind of pink sunset, but if you want a different color sunset, if you want it to be more blues or more oranges, feel free to make this your sunset. So we're going to get rid of this white canvas pretty quickly. I'm going to start with my biggest brush. And I always start at the top left-hand corner and kind of work my way across and down. And the way that this painting is, it's pretty much one big sunset. And then we'll split it up with some black paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start. I don't mix one particular color. I like to let my brush mix those colors. I'm going to start with some red and maybe a little bit of blue with that, because that's going to give me a purple color, and a little bit of white. All in my brush at one time. And we'll all be surprised what color we get here. And I'm just going to let my brush mix that color. And you'll notice as I do this, I'm doing my edges. Because when this hangs on your wall, you want a nice edge. Now I want to cover the canvas, but I don't want to have big globs of paint. So I do want to smooth it out. And when I'm ready for another color, or I run out of paint, I'll just pick up some more paint. This time I picked up just a little extra red. So if you want it to be a pale pink sunset, it's more pink and white, or red and white, that makes pink. If you want to add those purples into it, or blues, you can add a little bit of blue in it, and that'll give you that purple color. So when I just picked up on my brush this time with a little bit of blue, this time I'm going to pick up just some white. So again, just depending on your colors and your sunset. Now, the thing is, as you're doing this, just blend it up. You can make, if you want to make clouds, you just get a little less paint on your brush and you can kind of dab in some clouds, some fluff. And you can do that with any color. You can do it with some darker colors or some white, just a little bit of color on there. And so I'm pretty much going to work my way all the way down this painting of just these colors. Again, as I come to an edge, I'm going to go ahead and paint that edge. And I'm using my biggest brush. However your sunset turns out, if you want to add a little yellow in that, that's going to give you a little bit of orange or coral when you mix it with the red. I do not recommend doing the yellow and blue together. You're going to get a green sky. Or the yellow and purple, it's not going to look very good. So keep your yellows and reds together. And again, I'm just working my way down the canvas, just picking up literally whichever paint I think is going to work and adjusting as I go. So this painting is mostly pinks and reds, a little bit of blues, and a lot of black. I like this coral color that's happening here, so I might do a little more of it. And again, I'm just covering the canvas, but I'm not picking not using too much paint. You don't want it to be too thick. The thing with acrylic is it does dry fairly quickly, so you can paint over it once it's dried. Now that I've gotten about halfway down, got my canvas covered on the top part of it, I'm actually going to flip my canvas upside down. That allows me to paint the edges a little bit better and do the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do this edge here. I'm going to try to kind of mirror what I did on the other side. And do this process again. And again, if your sunset's more blue, that's fine. I've seen this painting done with blues. I've seen this painting done with oranges. I've seen it done with pinks. Whatever color scheme you like. Like I said, I really kind of like this coral color that's happening here. I'm going to do a little bit of blue down here, I think. More purple. And I'm going to work into my pinks and my coral. And now you'll notice I'm not rinsing my brush. I'm just working from one color to the next, and when I run out of, when I think I run out of paint, I'm just going to pick up a different color and just blend that in. Again, being mindful that I'm not putting the blue and the purple next to a yellow, because then I'm going to get a green or even a really muddy dark color, and I don't want that. So I'm going to keep my sky pretty. Pinks, some lighter colors. Now if it does get muddy, again, you can let it dry or take a hair dryer and dry it up and just paint over it. I mean, that's the good thing about acrylic, is it's very forgiving in that sense that you could just dry it up and just paint over it. Get a little more yellow in here. So again, you're just creating a whole background of a sunset. Doing my edges. Making sure my canvas is covered. A little more pinks in here. Maybe a little lighter. Oh, that coral. Again, you can just kind of work your canvas until you get your sunset kind of how you want it. If you have an area that you don't like, you can let it dry and paint over it. White is kind of like your magic eraser. If you let it dry, paint white, and then you can come back and adjust the colors a little bit more. So, okay. I'm just making sure that I got some canvas peeking through. Making sure I got all that covered. So now I have my sunset here. I'm actually going to flip this back around, because you can decide at this point what's your top and what's your bottom. I think I'm going to flip mine back around so that this is actually the top and that's the bottom, because I like that darkness at the bottom. And I might even come back and add a little extra darkness, because I know this is the bottom now. And just blend that in. And I'm using the really dark blue for that. And then again, like I said, if you want some clouds, you can come back with some white. Maybe do a few little clouds that just kind of float in there. If you want puffy clouds, again, it's kind of a circular motion. Remember, clouds are not symmetrical. They just kind of puff up. You can have some puffy clouds, or you can have some straight line clouds there. I might do a few more over here. And I have very little, when I'm doing these, I have very little paint on my brush, so I can control it a little better. If you get a lot of paint on your brush, it's hard to control a cloud. So now I've got a few little puffy clouds. Might add a little bit more up in here. These. However you want to do your sunset. There's no right or wrong answer to this. You might have some that puff up and some that don't. You might not have any clouds. You might say, oh, I'm not doing that, or I don't like that and I'm going to paint over that. That's okay too. Like I kind of don't like this one right here in the middle, so I'm going to just come back with a little paint about that color and paint over it. Okay. Alright, now I have my sky done, got my edges done. I got one little spot up here I need to fix. I'm going to take my big brush, I'm going to put it in my cup of water and leave it there, and that way the paint doesn't dry out in the brush and it's a little easier to clean at the end of the session. And now that you have your sunset the way you want it, and again mine's a little darker at the bottom there, but we're going to lay in our horizon line and our palm tree and just finish this up. So I'm going to use my medium-sized brush, and I'm just going to lay in this horizon line. I'm going to load it up with some black paint, and I don't want it in the middle. I want it a little south of the middle, so about a third of the way. And I'm just going to make a gentle arch. It doesn't have to be perfect along here. And then I'm going to come back, so that's my horizon. I'm going to come back and I'm going to fill in some trees, or they can be some mountains. They could even be a city. Like I've seen people put in a city in here. So just kind of some trees or horizon, like you're at the beach, you see this line, you're looking out, maybe you're at the lake. And again, it's just straight black paint. I'm using the side of my brush, and for these structures, I'm just kind of tapping on it, dabbing the paint. It's just a silhouette, but we do want to make sure that our horizon line is solid so that it's not really broke up a little bit. So we have a good distance between our sunset and our reflection in our water. And I'm going to make mine a little taller here on the edges. Some trees over here. It really just depends on what you want. Like I said, you could square in some buildings. You wanted some buildings in here, horizon. And then I'm going to start with my palm tree. Now the trick is with palm trees, or any tree, is you can always make the trunk bigger, but you can't make the trunk smaller if you're using just black. So you're going to start, you're going to decide where you want your palm tree, the top part of it, if you want it kind of right here in the middle, if you want it off to the side, one way or the other. I'm going to go just a little bit, my top's going to be right about here, so it's not quite in the center. I'm going to make a little dot there. not quite in the center, a little to the right, that's the center of my palm tree. And from there, I'm going to come down here, and I want my palm tree to connect down here. And I want it to have a pretty good arch. So you notice how your hand does kind of a circle motion this way? Again, you're just going to have to take a deep breath and go with it. Just do it, right? And play connect the dots. You notice I try to do it in one sweeping motion. And I'm doing this from the side, so it's a little more difficult than straight on. But if you do it in one sweeping motion, you'll get a better edge on your palm tree. And then I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to make me a little dot down here. And that's where I want to connect again. I'm going to start right up here at the same place, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to connect to that second dot. They are maybe an inch at the most away from each other. And then if I need to add a little bit more and kind of clean that up, I can. We're just going to fill in our palm tree. And that's your trunk for your palm tree. Now the palm leaves start with fireworks and end with feathers. So I'm using that same medium-sized brush. I'm going to turn it on its side so that it's more straight up and down when I do this. And I'm going to make some fireworks out of the top of my tree. And the thing is, this is what some people end up with. Once you do this, then we're going to make feathers and make them big and fluffy. So our fireworks start our tree. Then I'm going to load up and I'm going to do, and it's just kind of a wisp. Notice how these kind of all kind of come down, except for the top one. They're coming down. They're not going up. They're coming down. Then I'm going to come off of each one of them and make it kind of look like a feather. Down each side. And I'm just letting my brush stroke be, and you notice how they're getting a little bigger, a little fuller as they come out. And if I even need to add one, I can add one. So down each side, the top one's the only one that's going to be like up. And then the rest, you kind of want to make sure they're drooping down. Gravity's taking hold here. So they're more of a feather. Down each side. And they droop down. I kind of need one, I think, right here that comes down. Because you're just making the silhouette of that palm tree. Now you can always add more leaves. What I find with palm trees is most people make them too small. Like they want their leaves to be little. Now that I'm looking at mine, I'm thinking, well, these are really big, but these aren't. So I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger and fluff it out a little more. So you can always adjust it. I'm going to add one here. And one here. Even if it overlaps your trunk, that's okay. This one needs to be a little bigger. My palm tree's getting big. And that's okay. And if you need to fill in, you can fill in a little. So there's your big palm tree. Now, I'm going to do a few little things. I have a little bit of black paint left on my brush, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to just barely touch my canvas and kind of clean, not a lot, add a little bit of shadow to my edges, down here as well, maybe a little here. You could even do a little shadow like this. And I haven't picked up any extra paint for my last palm leaf. It's whatever's left on my brush, and I'm just kind of adding a little extra here and there, some down here. Just make that feel like it's underneath of your palm tree. there you go. You have a sunset at the lake, or actually at the beach. Maybe you're on an island. And that's how you do it. I'm going to add a little extra here. I think it needs a little extra. There you go. Happy palm trees. Thanks for joining me. Bye.